evening, everyone. I will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed on August 7th, 2026 through posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 19.84. We'll move on to 3.1, the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask you all to stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving on to 3.2, adoption of the August 11th, 2026 Board of Education agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a first from Commissioner Hurst, a second from Commissioner Meisner. Any questions on the agenda? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0 unanimously with Commissioner Hayworth and Commissioner Johnson absent this evening. 3.3, safety message. Commissioner Paul.
Thank you. This safety message I've been thinking about a lot lately. I've been seeing a lot of people riding bicycles. I'm not going to talk about e-bicycles or scooters, but just like a lot of people riding bicycles, adults, children, teenagers, little kids without helmets. And I've just been thinking generally about bicycle safety, and so I thought anytime we can talk about bicycle safety, the better. So here are a few tips from me about being safe when you're riding a bicycle, or if someone you know is riding a bicycle. Wear a properly fitted helmet. It's the best way to prevent head injuries and death. Ride on the sidewalk when you can. If not, ride in the same direction as traffic as far as on the right-hand side as possible. Use hand signals and follow the rules of the road. Be predictable by making sure you ride in a straight line and do not swerve in between cars. Wear bright colors and use lights, especially when riding at night and in the morning. Reflectors on your clothes and bike will help you to be seen. Ride with your children. Stick together until you are comfortable that your kids are ready to ride on their own. Again, a properly fitted helmet is the most effective way to prevent a head injury when you're on your bike. And one thing I want to point out that I have heard a lot in my life, and then also I've seen a lot of communication online, the question of if it's legal for bicycles to ride on the sidewalk in the city of Janesville, and it is legal. So here are some things to consider. Local rules only restrict bike riding in specific zones. So in like the central business district, so if you're thinking like Main Street, riding a bike, that would be an area that you would consider that you should not ride a bike. The problem is with Main Street, there are not cycle lanes. So you're in a bit of a conundrum there. Probably not the best place to be riding a bicycle. Then you should not be riding a bicycle in designated pedestrian paths within 1 block of school grounds or on public playgrounds. I think you can understand that. I know from my time at elementary school, as soon as you get close to school, they have you walk your bicycle instead of riding it up onto the playground. And then in crosswalks, it's also restricted in downtown spaces. Here are a few other little rules. Yield the right-of-way to people walking on the sidewalk. So if you are on a bicycle, then you should not be just zooming past them, that the pedestrian is in the right-of-way. And do not drive in a way that would put a pedestrian in danger. And then also electric bikes, class 1 and 2, would follow the similar sidewalk allowances outside of the restricted commercial zones. Remind kids to wear their helmet. I've asked my children's friends, and I think they get a little embarrassed. Where's your helmet? Oh, I left it at home. Bring it, wear it. Thanks.
Because at the end of the day, they don't need a traumatic brain injury because they're not wearing a helmet. So, nice Commissioner Paul. I appreciate that safety message. All right, moving on to 3.4, citizen comments. Do we have any this evening? No citizen comments. Okay, so we will move on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the August 11th, 2026 consent agenda as presented? Okay, I have a first by Commissioner Hurst, a second by Commissioner Richardson. Before I do a vote call, I just would like to talk a little bit about the consent agenda and the discussion. I would ask fellow board commissioners that going forward, a consent agenda has a lot of good information in there. If you as a school board commissioner want to pull something out of consent agenda, I would ask that you email me that as you look at the board packet so that we can positively talk about it and actually make it a board action going forward instead of pulling it. The purpose of a consent agenda is to move along, so we've all taken the time to read those reports. So if you see something that's really important to you and you want to call it out because it's so positive about the district, or even if you want to make some comments because it's not so positive, just please email me that so we can have an open discussion about that and actually make it a board item, okay? So let's do that going forward. Sorry, I'm flitting flies away. So thank you for that. All right. If anybody doesn't have any further questions on the consent agenda as presented, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes unanimously 7-0 with Commissioner Hayworth and Johnson absent this evening. All right, moving on to board actions, board items. 5.1, referendum presentation. Dan McCray.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to share information. You're welcome. You've seen quite a bit of this information before, so it's always a great opportunity to share with those who perhaps have not. So your patience is certainly appreciated. We always want to extend a thank you for the community support back in 2024 with the approval of both an operational as well as a capital investment in our facilities. We certainly understand and embrace the 4 priorities of the district. And your consideration tonight is really taking action on 2 potential resolutions, a resolution to exceed the revenue limit authority and a resolution to pose the question to the voters. An investment in education gives the best returns, Benjamin Franklin. Superintendent Holtzman and I had the opportunity to visit with Commissioner Hurst, and she referenced the word investment, and that really, if you will, warmed my heart, simply because what we're asking for is an investment in our community, an investment in our children that over time, and perhaps also immediately, provide dividends. This, if you will, is our future. Right, this is the culmination of a 13-year academic career. Back in January, Kim Perenboom and Allison DeGraff facilitated a little bit of a tabletop during a board workshop, really asking you to identify the programs and services we provide as a district. This is just a sampling of the listing that you provided. This is essentially what our budget, and the referendum is part of our budget, supports. We shared the 25-26 budget synopsis in terms of where our revenues and expenditures come from. You'll notice quite a bit comes from the state of Wisconsin. Certainly local taxpayers come in second, but a vast majority of our revenue in terms of equalization aid, property tax relief, comes from the state of Wisconsin. When we look at our expenses, no surprise, our largest investment is in our people. 73% of our budget relates to people that are providing instruction and support services to our students and community. Why do Wisconsin school districts need an operational referendum? You've seen this information before. The orange line represents had school funding maintain CPI increases on an annual basis. That's what the orange line illustrates. The green line illustrates, if you will, what we have received over that period of time. Therefore, we need an operational referendum to fill that gap. There's always someone smart in the audience. They'll say essentially what I alluded to, but you have an operational referendum. You've had per pupil categorical aid, albeit it's been frozen for a number of years. So you've had more money than the revenue limit authority. And that's the honest truth, but we still have a funding gap, even with our operational referendum and per student categorical aid. Again, not new information in terms of revenue limit authority per member, including operational referendum. We are 4th of 8. When we look at the Big 8 conference, we are 5 of 5. And when we look at our peer group, we are 3 of 8. So we are not necessarily, from a revenue limit standpoint, a wealthy district. It's always nice to highlight, and you've heard me say before, Sun Prairie, which has approximately $4,000 more in revenue limit authority than we do, which is approximately $30 million more to spend than we do, and we're a comparative size district. We do illustrate a forecast model. Again, nothing you've seen before. We are balanced, so that perhaps is a bit of an old slide. But years 28 through 31 essentially illustrate what happens if we do not have an operating referendum. We see lots of red, and we are essentially negative fund balance come 28-29. Not a good fiscal position to be in, not only operationally, but if you take a look at it even in your own home budgets, you don't want to have a ton of credit card debts, and then you go and ask for a home mortgage. As you know, we have a great deal of need in terms of our facilities, which we would then need to issue debt. Our credit rating would be affected by negative fund balance. If we have an $18.5 million operating referendum and we step up, you will see in year 4, 20, 30, 31, we are still a bit short. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. It's always nice to talk about the July 1 aid estimate. And again, you've heard it a bazillion times, and I will probably say it another bazillion times. Of equalization aid is not additional money to spend. Equalization aid is property tax relief. In May 2026, we provided the community with a survey for some feedback. We had over 4,000 participants. You received the report from School Perceptions in June. We surveyed 19.5 million, 23.5, 27, and 31.5 million. The reason we did that is so we wouldn't have a deficit in year 4. So we've had to scale back the question, the ask, if you will, because we know that only 47%, a conservative number, of the respondents said they would support the referendum as presented in the survey. We did this back in 2024, if you may recall, relative to our capital investment. We surveyed 169.5, didn't come back as robust as we would like in terms of a response, and we scaled that back to 151.8, still less than 17% of the overall identified need we need to address. Again, it's important to listen to our community. Therefore, we scaled that question back. A little bit about our referendum history and the proposed referendum is back in 2020, the community supported a 4-year step-up operational referendum. The orange is always the step-up as illustrated in this graphic. So the first was 3.5 million. We add to that 3.5 million by 4 million, and then another 4 million, and then another 4 million, capping out at 14.5 million on an annual basis. We held that 14.5 million in the past operating referendum for 2 years. And we did that simply because we refinanced debt. When the revenue limit ceiling went up, we captured those costs and paid that debt to afford us within our revenue limit authority approximately $1 million in order to work with. 1 million doesn't go very far. But essentially, we've held the line in terms of no new tax increase for those 2 years. Technically, if someone in the audience says, but that 14.5 million is a tax increase, it is, but we did not ask the voters to increase their tax burden. What we are proposing and what the Finance Committee has endorsed, if you will, is another 4-year step-up referendum. Keep in mind, and it's important to remember, the 14.5 is expiring, so technically we go down to 0. When we surveyed, we made that clear, and we talked about the additional tax increase, and you'll see that in just a few moments. Someone will say, so tell me about what your revenue looks like. For the last 2 years, our revenue has grown 1.63 and 1.65%. That's not a significant increase in overall revenue. This slide is just essentially illustrating the $325 that we receive every year. Even with $325, and someone smart's going to do the math and say, but that's more than 1.65%, and I would say absolutely. But when you factor in that 3.25 in a declining enrollment environment such as we are, it really nets out to approximately 1.65% this most immediate year. is another way to look at it in a table format. A lot of geeky data. So you can go back to 24-25, and we saw a 5.5% increase in our revenue, in part because of the addition of a $4 million increase in revenue limit authority that year. And then again, we held flat for 2 years, which is where you see the 166 and 159. Some of my percentages are a little bit off, but that is really darn close. And then we can see, if you will, when you look at the total, what our revenue limit authority looks like each year. Now, there are only two components. That is line 10, the declining enrollment exemption, line 10A, the non-recurring referendum, and actually three components, and line 7A, the max revenue. There are other ways, such as voucher schools, that the revenue limit authority goes up. But that's not spendable dollars for us, because we are hit, if you will, on the aid side of the voucher school equation. So it's not really spendable for us, which is why we highlight those three lines. Now, I think in our survey we referenced that approximately the average home value in Janesville is $260,000. Simplistically, we know there's no home valued at $100,000, at least perhaps not one worth purchasing. But the math becomes easy. And so this is where we talk about the increase above the existing tax increase of holding 14.5 million. The additional $4.5 million really equates to $47 on a $100,000 home in year one. And then another 36, and then another 32, and another 33 for a total over 4 years of 148 above the current that taxpayers are experiencing tax increase. If we look at it monthly, is it a latte? That sounds a little disingenuous, but that's kind of what we're trying to illustrate in terms of what does that look like. So if you have a $300,000 home, you're going to come in at approximately $444 over a 4-year period in terms of the tax increase over what taxpayers are experiencing now. So again, tonight you have two resolutions to consider. And just want to revisit this again. Chris, Allison, and Kim, over the coming weeks, will be sharing with the board and the broader community the success of our forward exam improving, as well as our ACT. So when we look at a return on investment, Allison, Chris, and Kim will be able to share that data with you. It's a little bit embargoed right now, which is why it's not a slide today. But over the coming weeks, you will see that information, probably maybe a month or more. But that's going to be a great story for you as a board, for us as a district, to share with our community, that there is a return on academic investment. Any questions?
Any questions for Dan?
You said on a $400,000 home in Janesville, it'd be an increase of $444. Did I hear that right?
Over 300,000?
300,000?
300,000 home.
Okay.
Right, so just to, right, and it gets a little geeky, Commissioner Miesner, right, is we levy on an equalized basis. So if you have a $300,000 home in the town of Rock and a $300,000 home in the city of Janesville, they're not necessarily going to equate, simply because of the broader composition of that community's tax base and equalized property value. Equalized is always how we view it. We pass along an equalized levy to our municipalities. They then put it into their Excel spreadsheet, and then essentially we'll assign it on a parcel basis, whether that's commercial, industrial, residential, so on and so forth.
Mr. McCray, thank you so much. This is really complicated subject, and you put everything together. It was a really nice summary. I think it's important, if we're not asking a lot of questions right now, for everyone to understand, because we've had a lot of opportunities over the last 6-ish months. We had a workshop. We've had other meetings where some of these topics have already come up. Things have been discussed in the Finance Committee. That information gets shared. And you've been so great, very transparent. None of this is new. This is not news to any one of us. I think it's also important for us to acknowledge that it's not a matter if we want to go to a referendum. Our funding from our previous referendum it's coming to term. So
Correct.
that will be done. We have to do something.
Correct.
Or there will be drastic measures that we will have to
Correct.
address. And so not only is that funding going away, but we actually need significantly more. But bigger than that, the reason why we have to address this with our local taxpayers is simply because funding is not appropriately being shared with us from the state level. This is not new for us. Virtually every school district across the state of Wisconsin, certainly throughout our region, I look in the newspaper every day, and I see there's a different school district that is talking about referendum. I mean, at least once a week, I'm seeing results of this. So this is not exclusive to Janesville. If we want to know why we are coming back again, it's because of the state of funding in the state of Wisconsin, and there is a major disparity. So if people have questions of what can be done, I would encourage our citizens to reach out to the state lawmakers because something has to be done. This is not sustainable, and we are every 2 years, every 4 years, every district across the state is having to make these hard decisions, and our local people are paying the balance until something changes. We really need our support of our local citizens and investing in our schools. It matters.
You're absolutely correct. Two quick points, if I may, just in terms of following up. I do need to give Patty Lux Mills a shout out. She has built a referendum page that will, I believe, debut this evening, as well as just a press release that will go out, and I see 2 representatives of the press. So that is another,
Wonderful.
if you will, area for you to direct your constituents to in terms of questions. It's also great to highlight, if you will, the data tool that we've partnered with Wisconsin Policy Forum that is on the About Us section. If we don't want to, we're not here to train you as school business officials, right? But yet sometimes knowing where information is and being able to direct your constituents to that information is extremely important. So that's why we've invested in those tools, as well as a very robust website with content.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm glad to know, and thanks for the work being done so that it is easily accessible for us to share out, but then also community members to be able to find it. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, one other, if I may, and then I'll stop, because it's a beautiful evening. It's important, and you hit it as terms of what we have expires. So it's not 14.5 million plus 18.5 million. It's really asking for a repeat of the 14.5 million on a step-up basis. So if you think about it in terms of 14.5 million times 4 years, this is approximately $58 million. So if we ask for a recurring referendum at 14.5, which we currently have over 4 years, it would be $58 million. That's not enough. So the increase above and beyond the existing increase that taxpayers are paying is for an additional $40 million. Right, so to your point, it can get a little complicated and convoluted. Words such as expiring that you noted is extremely important to share with your constituents.
Any others, Carl?
Share with me, I believe I'm correct. It isn't just the state, it's the federal that's hurting us in some ways, just not as significant. Is that correct?
You are very close, yes, sir. So the federal more so on the grant, but as those dollars on grants become tighter, right, and that's kind of what we're forecasting into the future. It was in a dangerous position at the beginning of this last fiscal year, right, then that is potentially a shift to the state and or local taxpayers.
Thank you.
All right, any others? Yes, Commissioner Richardson.
Just one last thing. When you go back to what we spend in a year, I just want to highlight the fact that 73% of our budget is our staff and our teachers, the people that are in our classrooms, making a difference with our kids every day and making the strides that we are talking about I'm hoping to hear more about, are making those happen. And so when our constituents do go to vote, and, for this reference, we're talking about the people that are in our classrooms and the people that are caring for our kids and the people that are helping our future in this community. And it's, as Karen had said, it's an investment in our future. So that's a huge highlighting point that 73% of our budget is people.
I think in addition to what Patty has most likely addressed in the website, we'll be adding to, it's not a static website. So to your point, even if we take a look at benefits, you may recall the Family Advantage Health Plan, right? The intent of the Family Advantage Health Plan is to reduce our costs related to health insurance. It's not savings, it's truly a cost avoidance, but by avoiding those costs, we've been able to ride out, if you will, that 2-year or minimal revenue growth.
Anyone else? Yes.
I would just like to reiterate what we've all discussed about the referendum. This is investing in our future, our students, our staff. This would be devastating if we don't pass this. We're going to be left with choices, I shouldn't say choices, decisions that we don't have choices on if we don't pass this. This isn't because we as a district are being financially irresponsible. It's because time ago there was a law passed, Act 10, where it, in my opinion, put public schooling against our communities for public schools to rely on our community investment. And if we want success, we have to invest in our public schools. In our last report card, we saw that. Success doesn't happen overnight, but over a couple of years, we'll start to continue to see that trend upwards. So I'm begging the community to really do their research and invest in the school district of Janesville, because if we don't pass this, we're going to be left with some really tough decisions we're going to have to make.
Commissioner Meisner, to your point, and I had the opportunity many times, if you will, to hear Superintendent Holtzman, this is a comprehensive school district that we have here in Janesville. It's comprehensive. You have various types of learners and you have various types of programs to reach those learners that we have as an investment in the community. So this is the challenge. There is no cut list. There's no, well, what are you going, let's go in first, right? Because one of the reasons we structured the January workshop as we did is to, if you will, ingrain the understanding of what we provide to our children in this community.
I will echo that statement. I think that January board workshop really opened up a lot of our eyes as to what comprehensive looks like, and it was daunting. There were school board commissioners there that didn't know we provided A, B, and C. So it really was a great exercise for us all to go through. I sometimes wish our community members could have gone through that exercise to help them realize the situation that we're under. I look forward to your presentation, even though it's under embargo. But when I get asked by community members, what's the ROI from the previous referendums that I've been a part of on the school board, and I share Wisconsin policy technology about us section for them to go look at, because our scores are improving. So that investment over time has shown results. So I look forward to that presentation here soon, because it'll be another tool for us as school board commissioners, along with the referendum website, for them to at least be able to point in the right direction. So I appreciate everyone's work on that to be able to tell the story of the school district of Janesville. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Just one more thing. The investment is not only directly into our children and their futures, but it's into our community. Many of these dollars just go right back into the community by our staff and teachers and reinvesting it and that. So a lot of this money comes back, and if we don't have that, the businesses suffer. We also have other issues there, but we won't get into them all. But I think that's something you should know, is that money goes back into the community, much of it, and that. although some teachers live elsewhere, don't support necessarily that. Other teachers from other communities live in Janesville and support it. So it's very important to understand that our community, and there's another hidden thing that I don't think people think of. If we don't do a good job with our schools, industry and businesses will take a look at where they're going to locate. And that's very important to the community. So our children are most important, but all these other parts fill into it. And I thank the people of this community for supporting our schools in the past, and I sure hope they will in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that ripple effect, Carl. I appreciate that. Anything else? Yes, Greg.
I think it's important to, and I want to correct you, Commissioner Meisner, it wasn't Act 10. That was a more recent act. This goes back to 1993, and it was Act 16. And I mentioned 1993 because the school district for like 27 years didn't have an issue with having to go to referendum. It's only been in the last few years. So it's one thing to note. We held taxes. I remember sitting here on the board. It's been a long time now, but we battled to keep taxes, I'll say, reasonable. In some cases it was lower than others. A few times it was higher, but we battled. And, now we can no longer battle. We don't have the income coming from collectively the state and property taxes to do that. So I just want to make sure that, everybody knew and don't get in a bundle. It wasn't Act 10, it was Act 16, 1993. So we've been under this restriction of revenue limits since 1993. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
McCray. Moving on to 5.2, consider approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit for 4 years for non-reoccurring purposes. I will actually read the motion because it's very specific. So I would ask for a motion to approve resolution by the school board of the school district of Janesville, Rock County, Wisconsin, that the revenues included in the school district budget be authorized to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $18.5 million for the 2027-2028 school year, by $22.5 million for the 2028-2029 school year, by $26.5 million for the 2029-2030 school year, and by $30.5 million for the 2030-2031 school year for non-reoccurring purposes consisting of paying the cost of maintaining district class size, student program options, and services.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Ardrey, second by Commissioner Richardson. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously 7-0 with Commissioner Hayworth and Johnson absent this evening. Thank you. Moving on to 5.3. Consider approval of a resolution providing for the referendum election on the question of the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit for 4 years for non-reoccurring purposes. Again, I will read this motion as it is specific. I need a motion to approve the resolution by the school board of the school district of Janesville, Rock County, Wisconsin, to direct the district clerk to submit the revenue limit resolutions to the electors for approval or rejection at the regularly scheduled election to be held on November 3rd, 2026.
So moved.
I have a first by Commissioner Ardrey, a second by Commissioner Hirsch. Any questions regarding that, or feedback, or insights? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously 7-0 with Commissioner Hayworth and Johnson absent this evening. Thank you. Moving on to 6, Finance, Buildings, and Grounds Committee report. Commissioner Ardrey.
Well, those couple of agenda plates went a lot quicker than they did in committee. Our last meeting was just, I'm at a loss for the date. August 3rd. I'm at a loss because I'm pausing a moment. We ran through that. We didn't really run through the referendum piece. But as I look at the work that we've put in, committee-wise, board-wise, thank you. Thank you. And I'll say thank you for me personally. Much of the reason why I'll say stuck around, ran again, is because I knew that we were going to be at this point. And I wanted to participate. And given the experience and knowledge that I had, I thought it would be useful. So thank you for allowing, us to get to this point. So with that, couple things from our committee just to highlight. As we look back to the last year from a financial standpoint, we went through a lot of those, and some of the key things that we do at the end of the year, funding Fund 73 and Fund 46, we were still able to put money in those funds. We will get into, I think at some point, describing those funds in a bit more detail, but we were still able to fully fund our obligation to Fund 73 and put some money aside in Fund 46. So we'll talk more about that at our next committee meeting, or I'll say a future committee meeting, to review with the board. I think a couple items to really highlight, and it is, as we still think about what is within our normal budget, and that's capital maintenance. And we think about, so what do we do with capital maintenance? Well, Fund 46, I just mentioned that. Fortunately, we funded it, we started it, we funded it, and we were able to replace the roof here at a tune of $1.25 million. For our newest building, completely replace all of the roofing. So I just, it's new, the newest, but it's not like it's new, being 25 years old. So just wanted to point that out, but that's completed. And then we'll see a substantial upgrade to going back to the ball fields at Craig and Parker, focused on softball and baseball fields. So stay tuned to that. That's another probably $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, still within Fund 46 and additionally in our normal budget. One of our nicer buildings, nice old pretty buildings, pretty, but not always when it's pretty is it very useful. As I look at these high ceilings, that as an engineer I'm going, we're cooling and heating things that we as humans don't feel. So, but anyway, I won't get into that. That's what I said. I won't get into that. Roosevelt, the portico, if you've noticed it, historically has looked nice. Well, it's not being very supported on its own now, so we need to replace it. So that work is being looked at and designed to fit with the historical value of the building. So that design work is well underway with EUA and Cullen Consulting for that. Then one of the other pieces we got into was, and everybody goes, is, what's up with the FEMA dollars? Well, that's quite the arduous process to go through that. Mr. McCrae talked about just surface level, I would say, of what we'll need to do to stay in tune. Those dollars are broken out separately, residential versus, I'll say, municipal. So there will be a lot more information, but that is quite the arduous process to go through for anything. So stay tuned. This will be quite the long haul on getting any information from that standpoint. And then lastly, I guess I don't need to talk about the referendum stuff because we just took care of that. So one of our quicker meetings, although it was under 2 hours. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ardrey. All right, going on to 7, Personnel Policy Curriculum Committee Report. Commissioner Paul.
All right. Well, I will say there was conversation at the start of PPC that the Finance, Building, and Grounds meeting took place on the same time and date as our meeting. So just hint, people didn't like that. I'm giving you a hard time. But PPC is now meeting here at Kennedy Elementary for the remainder of the school year due to the construction taking place at the ESC building. Our last PPC meeting was on Monday, August 3rd. Is that the date that you said, Greg? I think so. And it started with a very inspiring presentation by Tracy Filing and her very enthusiastic team about the district's new adaptive sports league, which is starting in Janesville this year at the high school level. It was an amazing presentation. I honestly would invite you all to watch that. You can go back to our website and find that. But Tracy is the coordinator for the district, and both Craig and Parker will have teams. There has been a lack of interscholastic opportunities for students with disabilities. And so with the addition of this program, it provides students an opportunity that they deserve in order to be physically active and be able to participate in extracurricular activities. Eligible students are in grades 9 through 12 with an IEP or a 504 plan, and generally are not able to participate safely with their non-disabled peers in the general interscholastic athletic program. There will be 3 sports offered, and they are soccer, field hockey, and wiffle ball. Those are all indoor sports because as information was shared with us, you can really control a lot of the dynamics indoors that outdoors could derail a game for some of these athletes. They will play Sun Prairie East, West, DeForest, Middleton, Waunakee, Verona, Mount Horeb with the hopes that more districts will soon join. This will fall under the athletic coordinator for supervision. There will be coaches. The program will also need volunteers and student volunteers. Transportation will be provided to away games, just like the general interscholastic athletic program. A lot of equipment has actually already been purchased. Some of it can be borrowed through the PE departments, through the individual school budgets, like the uniforms or the jerseys were purchased, so that was really wonderful. There's actually a lot of details that was provided. So as I already mentioned, for the full presentation, please refer to the PPC meeting from August 2026 on the district website. But I'm super excited about it. And they shared with us, it couldn't be played at the meeting, but there was a video that had been played at a news station. I know, Colton, you watched it. And it was about the program being held in Sun Prairie. It was so inspiring. I think visually was really great to see that and for me to be able to think, okay, this is exactly what it's going to look like at Craig and Parker. So I'm excited about it. It's really great. This idea was kind of presented, we learned in January. And so this is a real fast turnaround. So props to all of the individuals working on this so that we can launch it this fall in our schools. I think that's really great. The next topic we talked about was the district healthcare clinic. And what does that mean? Well, our district is currently in the research phase, which is ongoing, to learn more and cover all of the angles regarding the concept of adding an in-district healthcare clinic for employees to be able to use. Many districts around the state and actually in our area have a similar program. An on-site or near-site clinic has proven to help increase access for employees to receiving health care, reduce costs to employees, and also helps lower health care related expenses at the district level as well. The idea is that with increased access and reduced costs for employees, our employees would be able to access medical care much sooner and would help them receive certain early screening care and avoid costly visits to the ER. Basically, it adds an extra tool to our toolbox that would significantly increase care options for our employees and help reduce costs all around. Research on this topic continues, and we do anticipate more information to be updated to us in October about this potential program for the district. Last, we had a very informative presentation by Dr. DeGraff with an updated info for district ELA and math data. There's really a lot to unpack and more will be revealed in the coming months, but there's a lot to celebrate. We made progress in the last year overall. The district K-8 with our forward ELA test scores and are seeing growth compared to state data, which is very exciting. The 2026 ACT score for reading matched the state average, which is exciting because it shows steady growth over the last several years. And of course, we're expected that trend line to keep going up. In math, we made progress at a little bit slower rate than we've seen for reading. While our ACT scores for math have not yet matched the state average, am I getting this right? They haven't matched. They're close, though, and they're rising steadily each year. ACT composite has been also steadily rising, and the composite was nearly at the state score, so I think that that's really exciting for us to see all of these scores trending up, and that means that there's been very significant work that's been happening behind the scenes, and I can't wait to learn more about that. In science, we also have brought in a more hands-on learning opportunities through new curriculum for our K-8 grades, and that was really requested by teachers. They were seeing that some of our previous curriculum was missing those hands-on experiences, and these changes have already demonstrated an impact on achievement, with growth noted both at the 4th and 8th grade forward scores, and those are the two areas where those scores are demonstrated, because not every grade level actually is tested in all of those areas. There's a lot of in the works as well. So here are some things that is like on the radar for new and improved things coming our way. We see math professional development for K-12, so across the district, there's new math professional developing happening. More forward test data analysis that we're going to be doing. Introduction of the middle school math coaches this year, which is very exciting. There is going to be kindergarten-focused ELA resources to provide more support with phonics in particular. And then also high school ELA and math cohorts for continued improvement. So, we had so much to talk about at PPC. It was not quite as long as finance, but it was a hefty meeting. I can't cover it all. Just a little summary, and this wasn't a little summary, I realize. Were you timing me, Dan? So if you ever want more information, you can always reach out to the people who, presented to us, but of course you can find those full presentations on our district website. They're recorded and then posted for all of our meetings, whether they're a full school board meeting, finance, business and grounds, or policy, personnel, and curriculum. And then our next meeting is a little tricky. I'm just going to look at the timeline because I think we have some dates that are off. We are not going to have it the first Monday of September because that's Labor Day. So we will see you again for PPC on September 14th here in Kennedy Elementary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Paul. Before I get to 8 summary of board requests, I do just want to make a note that today was new hire orientation and onboarding for new staff. And ironically, you would have thought something was wrong because there was less people there than in prior new hire orientation experiences that I was a part of. But yay! If you think about it, if there's less people, that means we're retaining more staff. We don't have as many openings. So I just want to say thank you to Superintendent Holzman for speaking to all of the new hires and also for all the work that Director Mickelson put into making the day a great experience for all of them and everyone that was involved with her team. I had the opportunity to share some remarks from the school board, and I thank them for their service and for showing up on behalf of the school board commissioners. So I share that with you just so that you know that that was done on our behalf and tried to welcome them as well and inspire them to show up positively each and every day. Just to let you know that I appreciate all the hard work going in to help create that welcoming environment on the first day they step foot in the school district of Janesville. 8, summary of board requests. I do not have any requests. Again, I'll just reiterate, if you see any future consent agenda items that you would like to have pulled off and actually be a part of our board items and speak about, please let me know. Just email me that as you look at future school board agendas and specifically that consent agenda section. And our future meeting dates and times. Gretchen, you want to take it away? You mentioned your PPC, your finance, building, and ground is TBD, right? I'll take that as a yes. We're adjourned. Go enjoy your evening.